Good afternoon, my name's Kevin Graham and welcome to the Monday A Celtic State of Mind Bulletin. And as usual on a Monday, we're joined by Amy Canavan. Amy, how are you getting on?
Been great, Kev. Been loving this weather that we've been having. Feel I didn't need to go abroad. Thankfully, well, I've not got any booked now, so no, I'm more than delighted that at least it's 25 degrees yesterday, if not hotter, and that's me just in my element. So no, a lovely weekend in the sun. And just nice to have Celtic back on a Saturday as well. Wasn't it too bad, was it?
It was good. It was actually good. I must admit, Amy, 10 minutes ago, my hay fever's really, really bad. So I apologise to anybody that's watching with the nick of my eyes. But 10 minutes ago, it looked like I was going to need to do this broadcast in sunglasses. And that would have really been jumping the shark quite a bit. That would have been like... The amount of abuse I would have got for sitting here with sunglasses on would have been... It probably would have been worth it just to actually do it. But now, Amy... As usual with Axom, you've got a new deal, eh? You've got a new deal, and you're going to be on the Terrace podcast, and hopefully appearing on A View to the Terrace as well on BBC Scotland. Hopefully, eh? But time they had some decent
exciting
content.
News, exactly. So God threw me there. Actually, I thought, God, who have we signed today that I haven't realised? I was like, oh my God. Me. I'm excited to be on it, to be honest. I've done a Rose podcast, which folk will be grateful that I'll go and speak about Boiling and Grow somewhere else and not here. But I've done that, and then I've done a when Scotland Women kind of preview for the game against Ukraine. And I just kind of, the guys are quite liked me, I assume. I've cracked myself up a wee deal, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'll obviously be more as the season does start. But it's basically around the corner. I think it's mad that we're like so deep into July already. I think June flew in. It's weird because I feel it goes by really fast, but then in the same breath, it feels forever since I've seen Celtic. So, no, it's going to be an exciting new season, but still going to be a part of Axom, and that's all.
That's good. Everybody seems to be getting wee side hustles, apart from me. Nobody wants me. I'm just stuck at Axom's. Like Declan's got his wee side hustles. Natasha, I think, is going to be jetting off like around Europe, it looks like, and I'm just sitting in my kitchen on Axom till I die, I think's the way I'm going to be. So everybody in the comments is watching at the moment. Just like and subscribe the video. It does great for the algorithm, seemingly, and will lets people know that we're still here. I want your views in the comments on the pre-season games. We've played 2 so far. What's your thoughts? What's your feelings? And right at the probably halfway through, we'll start talking about the tagline, which is "What's in a Name?" Thoughts on Celtic's pursuit of Jordan Larsson. Amy, I'm going to ask the first question. Are Rapid Vienna the easiest club to detest in Europe, and have they in their DNA got dunghoosery hardwired into their DNA? Because that was anything but a friendly on a Saturday night, eh?
Aye, they're certainly up there in European scale, aren't they? I don't know what I expected, to be honest. Obviously goes without saying that I wasn't around in, 84, and then I can kind of, to get drawn against them in Europa in 09, 09-10, something like that. It was Mowbray, wasn't it?
Tony Mowbray, yes.
Tony Mowbray, so around that time. And I can remember, I can't even so much remember the game itself, but I can just remember like the furore around being drawn in the group, and being drawn against them. But I can certainly just probably, this is probably like my first time like actually gauging as to how much I hate them, and it's pretty up there. Kind of getting there with my dad now. Oh God, you're spot on. There's a fair few in Europe, but my God, they've got to be up there. It was just a hostile environment, and I'm up for it. Like I don't mind even like a hostile environment.
No.
Like, you need that in football, and I think it's pretty impressive when that can be generated in a friendly. But there's hostile, and then there's, like you say, just absolute hell. And I think they're certainly more borderline that. They're just like an extremely unlikable club. and obviously deep rooted within Celtic. But aye, there's just something about it that I don't think you can actually pinpoint as to why they are how they are. And like you say, just maybe thugs is the word. But it was not a friendly environment. And like I say, I don't even potentially mind having a bit of a hustle and bustle, but there's a line, isn't there? And they were certainly more than happy to cross it.
They were more than happy to cross the line. As Stephen Bonner comes in and actually says, Rapid have always been not nice, decent or honest team. I had a grudge against them because I'm old enough to actually remember that tie. I've got a soft spot for Everton, which I do have, because when they went to that 1985 final in Rotterdam, they did have a banner with saying this should have been Celtic. I just, them, Atletico Madrid, which I've got no connection with whatsoever because that was before even I was born, and Racing Club Argentina as well. They're the three clubs, I think, in Celtic history that we hold a massive grudge against, which is not due to the domestic game. If anybody else has got any clubs that they hold a massive grudge against from a Celtic point of view, put them in the comments and we'll try and talk about them. The game itself, I went online after the game, Amy, and I understand these sites, the Celtic News app and all of that. I've been in that game myself where you've got to write 500 words on a pre-season friendly, and it can sometimes be really, really difficult to try and get an angle for it. But there seemed to be quite an angle developed on all the pieces I actually read. But for me, for watching that game on Wednesday night, on Saturday night actually, if your conclusion was that Celtic are a team 3 weeks away for the start of the season, 4 games away for the start of the season, then I do not know what you're actually expecting. I'm the type of guy that goes into Greggs and expects free sausage rolls for £1. I didn't expect fine dining, and I know what I expect for pre-season games. And Saturday night was just that normal pre-season game. We look like a team that's weeks away for serious football actually get starting. Yeah,
and we are at a very different stage of our pre-season to what Rapid are as well. That's the tail end of it for them. Celtic are still very fresh. And for many, it was the first piece of action that they've had in pre-season. And if you're chopping and changing, from first half to second half, which I want, you want 45 minutes in players' legs. Certainly in the first 2-3, don't want to overcook any player, anything like that. So, good analogy there. You're back, but I was quite impressed. I still think that there's maybe optimistic's a better word than impressed. There was a lot to take from. I think there were a lot of positives, and even if it was, there was a lot to learn. And as you say, that's all you can really ask for it in a pre-season. I don't think that we should be having. I think we've learned quite comfortably that you don't have Urhoghide in a right back position. And I don't that's a positive, and you can take that as a positive because we know that's. That's just not that's we've learned that it should not be the case, and I think it was forced in at the weekend there with no Larsson and Juranovic. I don't think that's something that is going to continue into into the actual season, but I think there were plenty positives to take. A lot of nice movements. You're seeing link-ups that perhaps we hadn't seen, or just hadn't seen for a while. And I think you can see that there's not too much getting changed from last season, and it is just going to be tweaking in the finer areas. And if it's not broken, don't fix it. Don't want it coming in and making any kind of grand scheme changes. So very much like you say, that you think we got what you were kind of expecting, and I think that it is against a side that are a lot more accomplished in their pre-season. I think they start their season, is it next week?
Next week they start their season.
Yeah, so it's a more beneficial, I would say, a more beneficial experience for Celtic than it was for Rapid as well. We were getting to see lots of players have a bit of game time, and yeah, I felt there were a few decent performances out there, which I know we'll break down into.
Elmire Bernstein comes in here. I'm going to bring this up. Amy looking quite stunning while Kev Graham Poet, isn't he? I should have put the sunglasses on. I really know that I should have put the sunglasses on.
I'd wore sunglasses. Yeah, I'd wore sunglasses.
You mentioned Jose Urhoghide there, and this was another thing that post-game seemed to come out. The two scapegoats seem to be Jose Urhoghide and James McCarthy again. Look, I think the question has to be is if Jose Urhoghide is the answer, what's the question? If James McCarthy the answer is, what is the question? I think Urhoghide the other night there on Saturday night he actually got a tough deal because the referee never gave him any protection at all, and he was having a running battle with the guy on their right hand side. He did get he did get like back at one point in the second half to stop a goal scoring opportunity. It must be quite difficult for him mentally, knowing full well that Ralston and Juranovic are still to come back in, and he's getting a game at right back here. And I think I've actually noticed that in the games that we seem to be going down the left hand side more because it's more natural fullback on the left hand side. I feel sorry for the big fella. It is now looking like that he probably there's at least another loan deal in the offing for him, ain't there?
It's a very tough situation, and I think it's kind of similar to Liam Scales in a way. You know, I think it's evident that both were getting played at when they were getting played, if they were getting played. You know, Scales last season as well, I was out of position, and you were just kind of filling in the gaps. I think it's pretty apparent that it wasn't Urhoghide's favoured position, and I think, you know, when he went out on loan last season, 6 or 7 games, that's him on the right side of a back three. Kind of, as I said, I don't think there'll be any grand scheme changes, and I don't think there should be or needs to be. So I don't see Celtic going to that back three anytime soon. So, you know, is that going to fit? Is Angie's system really, where does he fit into Angie's system, basically? And I think if you're looking at that back four, you know, he doesn't. Is he even the backup at right back? No, he's the backup's backup, potentially backup, because you might even play Stephen Welsh there. And then is he, you know, he's not even getting a chance at centre-half to see if he would be a decent enough backup. So, he's still young. I appreciate that. But unless in the preseason that he's getting played in the way that obviously he wants to be played, you know, is Ange really then wanting him in that position? You would kind of say not. Because he did have, I know I'm saying that like on Saturday it was a stop-gap kind of thing to play there, but he could have played Welsh there, you know, and Urhoghide could have been in the centre-half to see him in that position. So I just don't know where exactly fits in to Ange Postecoglou's setup. And I think if you've kind of hit the nail on the head that if he's the answer, what is the question? You know, I'm trying right now to rack up any kind of question, and I just don't really see where it's coming from, because in the same kind of sense, you know, I was quite impressed with his pace. So you could see that as a centre-half. I was really impressed by his pace. But, you know, yeah, there wasn't maybe the protection from the referee, but I didn't think that he had the greatest, you know, strength in the world. I felt he was overpowered a little bit too easily. And obviously, I know we'll break down the goals as well, but he was caught behind. So I would be inclined to think that a loan deal would probably be best from a game. But is that, you know, or do you just cut losses? I don't know. Is a loan deal then, is he going to come back? You know, I just really struggling to see right now where does he fit in, because I think he seems a million miles away at this stage. And I know that can sound really, really harsh, but it is like brutality of it, that where is he even an adequate kind of backup and replacement? And this is a guy that I was quite excited to see, and I did, but I just don't think there was an awful lot, you know, on Saturday, certainly in that position. And if Ange isn't even giving him the chance at centre-half, then, you know, he's still young enough. I want him to actually go for the best of his career. Is he going to be better somewhere else?
I think the way I look at it, we've only ever seen him at fullback. And when he had his decent spell in Belgium, which was at centre-half. And for me, it doesn't look like he's got the attributes to be a fullback in an Ange Postecoglou Celtic side. He does look like a square peg in a round hole there. And that's why I kind of feel sorry for him, because we're judging him on a position that it's quite clearly, for me anyway, that he's not suited in. Ange Postecoglou likes him. He did call him a warrior after the game. Brass Neck comes in and says, I don't feel sorry for him because he's on a few grand a week. That doesn't wash for me now. He's a young guy trying to make it a way in his game. He's only 22. just because he's earning more money than me or you, Brassneck. I'm not washing that as an argument anywhere. These guys are just human beings after all. Hell Monkey, Urhoghide is only 22. Loan deal might suit him best in his development as he doesn't look ready for the first team. If he does stay, he has to play against lesser opposition. The problem that I've got, Amy, and the problem that Urhoghide's got, and the problem that Celtic have got with Urhoghide is this: there's plenty of other guys in front of him in the position where we signed him for. So it's more than likely that he is going to like go out on loan. James McCarthy is a different one. If James McCarthy was 12 years younger, we would be shouting for James McCarthy to go out on loan. I think that's a fair comment to get game time.
Oh, I don't know. McCarthy, it's two totally different ends of the spectrum, isn't it? You know, I'm just thinking James McCarthy 12 years ago, I'd have taken him at Celtic. So it's a totally different kettle of fish. What is the question if James McCarthy is the answer as well? Struggling there. I think, as we said, in Urhoghide's position, there are a multitude of players ahead of him. And McCarthy's, there's not actually, and and Celtic are actually probably looking for a player to fill that James McCarthy role, and I think that's the difference. That even with a lacking amount of players in that kind of role, in his favoured role, Celtic are still actively kind of looking for somebody to kind of leapfrog him in the rankings. I think we all spoke about it last year. That 4-year deal is something that I don't think I would have signed. Or well, if I was James McCarthy, I'd have signed it. I don't think if I was Celtic, I would have been looking for it and maybe gave it for McCarthy. I think it's more just a been there and done that. And I think when you look at how little he was kind of played throughout last season there, kind of shows that it maybe wasn't the right choice at that time. I'm trying to really stay not too negative. Where he's at in the stage of his career. Like I say, if you got him 6-7 years ago, you'd have been absolutely jumping with joy. But now we're at a stage that is really the twilight years of his career. And Celtic really, what are Celtic really getting out of this deal? I think James McCarthy's getting a lot out of the deal, but I'm not too sure what Celtic are getting out of the deal. He can maybe come in and close a few games, but is that really why you bring in a 4-year deal for somebody? Obviously we've seen Sorrell exit in the last few days, obviously a loan, but I don't think that he'll be coming back and, they're making 25 appearances when he does come back. McCarthy, he's obviously still getting, he's still here, and Celtic, they cannot possibly send him out on loan, can they? It's just one of those that I think we will be talking about for the 4 years of his deal, just going like, I still don't really understand. We all know the reasons why, but nobody really wants to see it. And I just don't think that the club are getting an awful lot out of the McCarthy deal, because again, he doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, but I just think he's just an aging player. And you look at the difference in calibre from Callum McGregor all the way down to James McCarthy now. Callum McGregor's in the prime and James McCarthy's just in the twilight now. And I don't think that that's actually anything outrageous to say. I just think that's, a case of the career.
Robert Ingram, is he a luxury we can afford? And that's where I'm kind of coming from. My answer to the James McCarthy question is this. He's a player that we can't afford to fail because of the 4-year contract and the wages that he will be on. Also, as well, he's probably the most natural fit in that sitting position that we need. He is and until we sign a better player in that position, which is a natural defensive midfielder, then we've got to consider James McCarthy an option. I just thought the targeting of Ozzy Urhoghide and James McCarthy was very, very predictable. Yes. Post-game, it was extremely predictable, and it maybe shows you the fact that there was nothing really that interesting went on during the game. It was a training game. Celtic look a few weeks away from full fitness, and I just thought the targeting of these two guys when there is not excuses, but you know what I mean. I just thought it was very simple. It was very, very lazy to target these two guys. Let's talk about the game. We went 1-0 up and a spell where we actually we played with adrenaline. We played with a bit of adrenaline, and I reckon rapid superior fitness came in the second part of the game. We went 1-0 up. Jota done a wee bit of skill and gave it to Matt O'Reilly. It was a fair finish by Matt O'Reilly. Didn't matter what he says after it. He said when he kind of played it down a bit, he says, I had some time and there was a massive gap in that corner and I played it in. It was good to see O'Reilly getting on the score sheet, because we want our midfielders to get on the score sheet in that as well. And O'Reilly gave a very, very interesting interview during it over the weekend as well, when he was talking about how he uses breathing exercises, meditation, and a life coach as well, somebody that he met at Fulham, to get yourself mentally in tune for the season ahead and how to deal with the rigours of being a professional sportsman. I could hear all the anti-woke Celtic dads out there going, it wasn't like that in my day, you just went for a couple of pints and you just got on with it. But I thought it was very, very refreshing that Matt O'Reilly spoke like that, and he came out and says, this is what I do. I'm unsure how he'll be liking the what sounds like Capital FM and the warm down areas. Have you seen the videos with them on the bikes and that?
Yes. Interesting. But no, I have to say, I agree with you. I like that he's coming out and being so open, and it is I understand your reference, but it is a totally different game now, and players do have to protect themselves in a totally different way. And there are now all these kind of it's a luxury actually that you can utilise it. And if no real surprise, it's a guy that met down at Fulham. Probably at the time we started the Premier League finals, if not they were even still in the Premier League at the time. But yeah, I thought he took the goal really well, and it's exactly what you want to see. I think it's going to be a huge season for Matt O'Reilly, and I agree with you in the adrenaline kind of things. I just felt we really did actually come out the tracks firing a little bit. There was a little bit of fire, and I thought Jota played really well actually, and I like in the link up with him and Matt O'Reilly. So if that is to continue, happy days. But no, he did definitely play it down. I did think it was a decent strike. And you're looking for goals from Matt O'Reilly this season, and I think there'll be every chance that he can net them.
Amy, I don't know what's happened to your sound. It seems to have went all sort of hissy. So if you want to, I don't know if you need to put headphones in. So if you want to drop back out and come back in, and I'll go solo for a little while Amy sorts out her headphones. What I'll do, I'll go through some of the comments while Amy's coming back. Let's have a Sean Barlow. Hiya, Sean. How are you getting on? 3 sausage rolls for £1. Kev, try 1 sausage roll for £1 nowadays. Maybe that shows you the last time I was in Greg, Sean. Do you not still get 3 sausage rolls for £1.20? I don't know. Somebody let me know. Seamus Duffy comes in to say that he hates Ajax. Ajax are kind of a recent team that we've had somewhat beef with. They haven't been very, very nice at all the couple of times I've played them, especially their fans. Their fans are not very nice. Peter MG, Racing Club made Rapid look like angels. If you haven't read Tom Campbell's book, was it Tears in Argentina? It's a fantastic book, and he talks about Racing Club and that. Tom Campbell, who is a friend of the podcast. I'm just going to bring Amy back in. You there, Amy?
Is that better?
That is better. Thank you very much, because I was just blathering rubbish there to everybody. Wee Jimmy comes in and says, got a wee bit of a grudge with Porto after the time wasting in the 2003 final, but not as massive grudge like the other 3 you mentioned, Kev. I will just talking about grudges there while you came back. I agree with you. I thought O'Reilly looked quite decent for the 10 minutes, but he admitted himself in the interview after it. He says, I wasn't up to speed. It took me a wee while. It took me a wee while to actually get into the game, and knew he was feeling it a bit after it. Paul comes in. Paul's on holiday this week. That's why I'm here today. Blaring rubbish. Why change the habit of a lifetime? Why change a habit of the 5 years I've been doing this? And why change a habit? That's why I didn't get asked to go on anybody else's podcast.
Not at all.
Robert Little tells me there's 4 sausage rolls for £3. Well, there you go. That's
Getting sold short, Kev.
I mean, it probably shows you the last time I was in Greg's. I thought you get 3 sausage rolls for £1, eh? Right, we'll go into the goal that we lost. I'll just ask you, who was to blame for the goal?
I'm off them. I'm going to. Twitter's going to go after me. It's Joe Hart for me. It is Joe Hart for me. And I know that folk won't like it. And that's not saying that there weren't terrific saves throughout the game, because there absolutely were. I thought there were a few really, really good saves, as has been the case last season. And I think not that anyone got not overboard, but very quick and rightly to commend when there were decent saves pulled off. But I think that this has been, a disaster waiting to happen. And I think we've said it time and time again. And I'll be honest, I'm just quite thankful that it came during a friendly, because there's been many a time that, there's that sharp intake of breath when Joe Hart has the ball at his feet. Because, look, mate, you're a goalkeeper for a reason. And I think that about any goalkeeper. I think that about Neuer as well. And he's certainly the maiden master of this, or instigator of it. It is a slack pass, and obviously the comments are coming in already, but I still think Joe Hart's just trying to be a little bit too smart. I really do. And I just think that there has been this, there's just been this undeniable wait for this, that this has certainly been going to happen. I just think it's been written in the stars, and I do think that it's just so lucky that it's came during this friendly, and I certainly hope that that's that lesson learned, because I felt he was asleep, and I just felt that that he's just when he puts that arm out and it's like, right guys, I've got it, but you've not got it yet, and that's why they ended up conceding. So I know I'll get pelters on Twitter and I'll get pelters in the comments, and yes, I can admit it was a slack pass, but I do think as well that Joe Hart gets and I'm a huge Joe Hart fan, I'm not saying that I'm not, but I do think he gets a lot of protection when he does actually make a mistake, purely because of the amazing saves that he does pull off. And I get that. He is for that, but that's a really, really costly mistake. And if that happens in the Champions League, can you imagine? Do you know what I mean? That's how I think it.
I know, you've already had the usual suspects saying, should Celtic change their playing out for the back because of it? I agree with Danielle F. Slack pass from Cameron Carter-Vickers. Hart a bit overconfident, both to blame. The underwater's cabbage salesman. Hospital ball back to Joe, but he should have done better. I reckon it was a bad ball, but I think Hart had plenty of opportunity to actually deal with the situation, and he didn't deal with the situation. But exactly what you says there, Amy, I think his saves may have made up for it.
That's
what Joe...
Saves.
The fact is, we've got a 3-each draw because of Joe Hart, not cause of Joe Hart, because he made some great saves in the first half. So did Scott Bain make some decent saves in the second half as well. Again, that's not really worried. I'm not really worried about that. I know Hart had played against Winer Victoria, who JP Mason did tell me have never played at King Tut's. I really did think they had played at King Tut's in 1992. He didn't really have much to do in that game. Cameron Carter-Vickers, his first game back as well. The pass was a bit heavy. Hart should have dealt with it better. But he saw the reaction in the team. There was no reaction in the team. There was no shouting at each other. There was no hand up just going, get on me at this. This is a great place for that to happen, if it is going to happen whatsoever. We get into the second half, Amy, and we completely change the team at half-time. The only person that survives is Ozzy Urhoghide. And we go 2-1 up, and it's a fantastic ball with Kyogo. An absolutely great ball with Kyogo. And the timing of the run by David Turnbull was fantastic as well. And it's a confident finish. I reckon these two boys are going to have a massive say in Celtic's season going forward. And Kyogo's been in the paper a day saying that he vows to be Scottish football's top goal scorer next season. What did you think of the second goal, your second goal?
Yeah, it was synonymous to pretty much the first 6 months of last season, wasn't it? Nothing was really... Well, no, that's a bit harsh at me. There weren't a lot of options, and there were still a lot of uncertainties, in the first half of last season compared to the second half. So it was synonymous that they were probably our two best players. Kyogo and Turnbull were linking up really well. Up until, the injuries for both. I was going to say to Turnbull, yeah, but for both. And I just felt that kind of partnership is obviously going to, hopefully going to continue, but it's just picking up where they kind of left off when the injuries did come around. It's a fantastic goal. Like you say, the timing and everything is to perfection. And it breeds a lot of confidence that, earlier we were in the first goal as well, that you're seeing that O'Reilly and Jota link up, and then you're seeing the Kyogo and Turnbull link up, and this is what you want. They just do seem to know where each other are. And the comments coming out from Kyogo are great. If he stayed fit last season, I don't think it's any outrageous statement to assume that he'd have been the top goal scorer. And as long as he stays fit, then there's no reason why he can't be this season. But he will need that kind of service from, the other way around actually. Turnbull will need to give that kind of service to Kyogo, as well as Matt O'Reilly. So they're all partnerships that you're wanting to blossom. And yeah, I just felt it was a nice goal, and as I'm actually saying, it's nice to see it the other way around as well. It's a bit of give and take, and I think that's a real strength of Kyogo. In fact, it's a strength probably the whole Celtic front three, whichever order it is.
The combination.
I feel like Maeda and Giakoumakis, they're both great providers as well as goal scorers, and as is Jota, and you can see that in the stats from last season. Not that I have any from the top of my head, but the goal and assist ratio is very similar throughout. There's not like a 20 and then only like a 2 assists. It's much more similar, and that is just, that's just kudos to Ange Postecoglou, and it just highlights that the strength and depth that Celtic have across, I'm saying front three, front five, whatever you want it, and the depth in those positions as well. You're talking the best part about 6-7 players when you're referring to those positions. So it's nice to see it working both ways, absolutely.
Definitely, Hell Monkey. Good ball for Julian over for Kyogo too. And Brown Warrior comes in and tells us the first rule is Julian Club, don't praise Julian. They got it back to 2 each just after that. Again, Big Aussie was out, jumped at the back post. It was a decent enough save for Bain. He couldn't really do much else. And Julian, I think it was Julian or Welsh, was caught a bit flat-footed with the guy going in. Again, I'm not really going to fire too much blame. The guy got the crossing a bit too easily. I always expect the full-back to get out jumped at that point because the guy's coming in behind him. His positioning could have been better, but it's one of the goals that we seem to lose all the time, and I think that triggered quite a lot of people that we seem to lose those type of goals.
I think you're spot on, and just as you're saying that, I do think that it is the weakness in Celtic, and has been the weakness probably for the best part of my whole Celtic lifetime, that if it be a set piece or just any kind of cross ball in, I just think we're so vulnerable. And I don't understand why, when you've got decent height, decent goalkeeper as well, and I think you're right. I know Scott Bain does come in for a lot of criticism from folk, but I don't think there's a lot that he can actually do in that situation. And you're looking for a bit more support from the players in front of you, but it is a huge worry. But is it a worry? Because I think you just kind of get used to it at one point. That, like I say, set piece or any just kind of cross ball, I don't know, a lack of jumping, just a lack of reading situations. I don't think we command our box very well. And as always, I think that is the concern going into Europe. Because whoever you come up, there's not going to be a single easy game. The caliber and quality of the Champions League is insane. More than ever, I feel that, even if that third pot team that you kind of think you might get a decent result out, these are still guys in sides that have got unbelievable money behind them and unbelievable sides. And I just think that you're just so sceptical to conceding from any kind of cross ball. And, that's what European sides are going to do. They're not going to go through the middle. They're going to use and stretch Celtic, deliver that one clinical. It doesn't even need to be too clinical, actually. Just any ball in, and and there's probably a 70-30 chance that you're at least going to be testing the goalkeeper. So it's definitely something that you would hope can improve. But I think we've been banging this drum for honestly, like the best part, like 7 years probably, that Celtic just cannot seem to deal with any kind of cross ball situation.
No, it seems that way. And we'll get on to the third goal that we lost as well, because it comes from a corner kick. Kaiser HTTC, he comes and says, I hear if you say Julian 5 times in the mirror, he turns up behind you and asks for a game. We're only having a laugh here, by the way, everybody. We're not seriously, but I just found that quite funny. You talk about problems with us losing goals, but when you go up the park 2 minutes later and score, does they really kind of lessens a problem in your mind, Again, it was a great. What I really loved about this, it was a wee nice interchange between Turnbull and Kyogo, but it was Kyogo's changing body shape to actually get the space to make and to take the shot. I found utterly fantastic and utterly delicious, and it's good to see him back. And the strange love, the doctor actually comes in and says, "Amy, Kyogo, my goal is to finish season as top goal scorer in Scotland." He's not thrown the gauntlet down to anybody else. He's thrown the gauntlet down to Big Yakamakis.
Exactly.
As well. I loved that finish. I did love the finish, and it was just great to see Kyogo back.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying about the Turnbull goal. It's just great that you can see it both ways in that partnership, and I just feel it's like a flashback to September, October, November last season, when you were really relying on big performances from Kyogo and Turnbull. I think Turnbull's going to have a huge part to play this season. I really do. And well, it's not like me preaching anything that nobody else will know. I don't think that's a real shock. But, there has been that kind of, and I've been certainly one of them, that I've been a bit worried, and disappointed at the loss of Tom Rogic. And you kind of go, right, what happens now with O'Reilly? Is that all falling on his shoulders? But no, David Turnbull's going to be more than competitive with O'Reilly. And they're similar, but they're not. Which I know is a complete and utter contradiction. But
no, you're right. I completely understand where you're coming from.
Is that a good thing that you and I
completely understand where you're coming
from? But I just, it's the vision of both, I think, is, unbelievable. And you would really throw Tom Rogic in that as well, that if you kind of had to build a player for that, just sitting behind that number 10 kind of role, they're pretty similar to what you would draw up, I would think. O'Reilly can be that, I think, that little bit more audacious, and will maybe try something. And Turnbull, I just think his brain, his footballing brain, is really underappreciated. And I kind of say it as well from a Scottish point of view. I would really like to see David Turnbull play more in Scotland setup and see what he kind of do with, like a John McGinn, because I do think that he has that footballing intelligence that goes under the radar. So I think it'll be a lot of competition between he and Matt O'Reilly this season, and I don't think it'll be, very similar to the O'Reilly and Rogic scenario, that, it's not, if one's on the bench, it's not because you're playing badly, and I think it's just because the other's obviously doing something extremely well, and I think that it'll just push and bring out the best in two really, really top class players. And I think it's Kevin Tate that actually always says that, you should always have two, if not ideally three, but let's just stay within our means. You should have two top quality players in every position, and I think you've got that in O'Reilly and Turnbull, and there's nothing wrong with that healthy competition, and you're wanting that if you're playing 60 minutes of Matt O'Reilly, that 30 minutes of David Turnbull, that you don't see that drop in class, and vice versa. And I think that would be the case. And I think back to that game at Fir Park against Motherwell, when O'Reilly came on for Tom Rogic, I don't know, maybe 20-30 minutes to go, and it was just seamless, totally seamless, interchangeable. And I think that if both can stay fit this season, and that's going to be the biggest thing with David Turnbull in particular, I feel, and you want him to stay fit, because he was having a real top class season up until that injury in the final. But swings and roundabouts, because then would we have seen Matt O'Reilly in that kind of flourishing role that he was forced into with Tom Rogic? I don't think so. Tom Rogic, God, I'll get it eventually. He's only been at the door 2 minutes and I can't even remember his name. But I just think to have that strength and depth in that really kind of crucial position where you're wanting to be able to change things up but still bring on the same kind of calibre of player. I think that's just a real bonus for Ange.
I think they offer the same things, but they are different. I think Turnbull can break the last line. Has got a more intelligent. He's got more pace and a bit more intelligence. Aye, to break the last line, and his timings of the runs into the box as well is very Petrov-like. He knows when to actually make that run beyond the centre forward to actually get into the near post or into the front, into the back post and stuff like that. That's where I think Turnbull's game differs from Matt O'Reilly's. Maybe O'Reilly will develop that. We don't know yet. He is a young lad, but I think Turnbull's got that at the moment. We lost it. The game was drawn with the last kick of the ball. By the time you get to this point, I think Rapid Vienna have made loads of changes. We've sort of made changes as well. The game's sort of petering out. Bosun Wall, who I thought was impressive, sort of hacks a clearance out the pitch. Before that, Rapid had missed a couple of chances where Law and Julian had got themselves into an offie fankle at the edge of the box. I mean, I didn't ask my centre halves to circumnavigate the world on a space hopper. I just asked them to clear the ball at times when the ball needs cleared. And big Julian and Bosun Wall at that point at the edge of the box, when the guy put it by the post, just none of them just took control of the situation to actually clear it. I like Big Wall. He's got a good recovery. If he makes a mistake, he seems to have one of those telescopic legs. It seems to appear from nowhere. I do like the look of him. I'm probably thinking that he needs to go out on loan to get games for him to actually become a serious part of the Celtic first team. He shanks the ball out for a corner kick, panicked a wee bit, and we lost a goal from the corner. James McCarthy's sort of caught, but I think big Christopher Julian loses his man completely, and we end up losing a goal for set play. Again, it triggered all the usual suspects, losing a goal for a set play. But I'm going to bring in Gary Melrose here, and Gary Melrose makes a great point. CCV and Starfelt really cut out the cross balls issues in the second half of the season. Let's hope they continue that when Starfelt is back. What I would say, we lost 2 goals for 2 set plays without our 2 first choice centre halves actually playing in the second half. And I think people have got to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. And touching on it, I've been really impressed by Law as well. Considering what I'd kind of seen with him in Celtic B, and he's been, I wouldn't actually even go as far as saying impressive. I just felt that, he kind of fit in very well. But I think he has been impressive since making the step up. I don't know if he, is relishing that kind of responsibility and this kind of opportunity. But I do think he has been impressive. And yeah, you're spot on. This is not the starting centre half pairing, and they're still it's fresh, isn't it? It's new, and I don't know how much that'll get to the opportunity to blossom. But I do agree with you that I do think it's probably a little bit poor on Chris Julian's part, but it's it's never nice conceding that late in the game. But I just was it probably coming? I think so. You're right that there were a lot of rapid chances and opportunities, and you could see that not necessarily tiring, but you're just seeing a different side to Celtic at that point.
Right.
And I think that's going to come when you make as many changes. But all in all, 3-3 is a very decent result against a side that are at the tail end of their pre-season, and I think that has to really be noted. And the climate as well, as in the atmosphere of the game, I think there's a lot of positives to take out of it, a lot of partnerships, link-ups, and everything that we've just summarised. So it's never nice conceding so late on. Don't want to necessarily pick on Chris Julian, but if he's maybe a bit more match sharp, then maybe that doesn't happen.
I think at the end of the game, you actually see Rapid Vienna in their final pre-season game, and we're not. I think you actually see that. I think in the first 20 minutes, you actually see that we've got a better quality of player, then the fitness just absolutely takes over. And start of the second half, again, you've got the players come in, there's an adrenaline thing, but the fact is Rapid Vienna are sharper than us. And that is going to tell towards the end. Fitness is going to tell towards the end. It was a decent run out. I would love to have bet Rapid just for the case of just beating Rapid Vienna. But that's twice we've been in that stadium and drawn 3 each way. I think Paul McGowan scored the equaliser the last time.
Oh, God.
We were in that stadium. And if somebody in the comments can keep me, I think we were 3-0 down and we drew 3 each. So somebody can get in the... I'm sure it was Paul McGowan that scored the equaliser for us.
I'll trust you on that one. I really will.
I think it was.
What am I got right now?
The last comment, I think Hatate's looked impressive in the 2 games. I think he really has. He's looked really, really impressive in the 2 games.
He's just going to be a star this season, isn't he? We've banged on about it time and time again, but you're just so looking forward to seeing him not having a season and a half behind him and having a full pre-season under his belt. You know, he's looking so fresh. I thought Maeda did as well. You know, the running it's unreal. And I just think Hatate is going to be exceptional. I really do. He is just here, there, and everywhere. He is so good at, even when he's not at his best, still being prominent. You know, he doesn't shy away from anything. He doesn't hide. You know, if he's not a howler, but if he's maybe just slightly off it, you know, if one pass doesn't come off, that doesn't mean that he's not going to try it again. And I like that. You know, he's just sticking with it. But yeah, the engine that he has on him is phenomenal, and I think, yeah, huge season to come, and I think he will relish Champions League games. I think he'll relish the big games. And yeah, he's looking so fit already, and you just think, wow, as with so many players, this is still just the very start. I can't wait to see them in just a matter of weeks.
It's all the fresh air they got down there, Ayrshire coasting on Ayr Beach. The last couple of comments about the pre-season games. We are going to be here tomorrow with the game kicking off at 5 o'clock. I will be doing the post-match, but I don't know if there's going to be a pre-match because I might actually do work and I will be working to 5 o'clock. But I think Paul will maybe do something on Twitter Spaces again, but we don't know yet. We'll hang with that tomorrow. But me and James Mackenzie will definitely be back here post-game to give you the usual lowdown. Jungle Lion hits the nail on the head for me. Pre-seasons are for one reason, getting fit and ready for the first game of the season, nothing else. And I think we've got to really remember that as well. Let's talk about the tagline, Amy. And Patrick McGowan comes in. Is this a genuine pursuit or is it just speculation? And I think that's where we are with Celtic's so-called pursuit of Jordan Larsson. Anthony Joseph, usually in the know, and his info is usually quite on the ball. He says that Jordan Larsson's representatives have made contact with Celtic, offering them the player. But there is interest for Germany, Sierra, and the English Premier League. Nottingham Forest seem to be the team that keeps on getting mentioned. For me, I don't think Jordan Larsson would be getting mentioned as a Celtic target if it wasn't for his second name. I really do. And I would love the fact that we had a Larsson in a Celtic jersey today, because really, really, somebody should write a poetry book about his dad.
Really?
I think somebody should do.
There's a gap in the market, I tell you.
Definitely, and it would be the best poetry book ever written about Henrik Larsson. I think I can say that very, very confidently. I would love to see a Larsson back in a Celtic jersey. I just can't see where he fits in the squad. I know he's a quality player. I think all this hoo-ha is just because of his surname. I really do.
Oh, I think there's a decent comment coming in there from Brown Warrior. It's a media pursuit. Can I disagree? I don't really know. It's, to be honest, if what Anthony Joseph says is right, and I've got no right to deny that it's not in the know. But if it's his representatives, if it's his agent making kind of contact, that's definitely a promising sign. And then that does kind of steer away slightly more from just being simply media speculation. Can you just imagine the sales on his shirt?
I know.
You know, that's what the club are definitely thinking. My God, that's what I'd be thinking.
Sales of my book, I'm there thinking about.
Sales of your book, and you make volume 2. God, sales of your, exactly. Oh, that's the club. Sales of your book. I would take a punt, in all honesty. I would. I think it would be an amazing time. I was too young for Henrik Larsson. That doesn't mean that you don't know it. I've still got 10 Larsson shirts myself. I do think he could probably offer something just that little bit different. You need to, well, I don't think he'd be any, I don't think he'd be under any illusion that he would be walking in and, being the first choice. I don't think that's going to happen. But he is built different. He certainly plays differently to both Giakoumakis and to Kyogo, and then very different as well from Maeda. Although I do actually prefer Maeda out on left, and I try and not bring him up in the striker option, so folk maybe forget that he's a striker option. But I would like to see him. I certainly would. And even if it may just be for a season or so, just getting on the hype. That's more just like my heart speaking more than my head in a footballing sense. Don't really just want to think about that. I just want to see a Larsson back on that shirt. But there's been that debate on Twitter. He doesn't get the number 7 jersey, though. He doesn't.
No, not at all. That's Giakoumakis.
You can't do that. But it's a selfish perspective. We were saying it just before we came on air as well. What a mountain of pressure to come in with, and that's why as well he couldn't get the number 7 jersey. Can you imagine having Larsson 7? It's tough enough being in a Celtic shirt and then having Larsson, never mind with 7 as well. So there would be a mountain of pressure, but it would be a fairy tale, wouldn't it? And there is a fairy tale aspect to this club, so never say never.
I'm going to bring this one up. Kaiser Larsson 67.
Oh God!
The Celtic merchandise department has just absolutely exploded at that suggestion. I can just picture them just now going absolutely mental at that suggestion. A lot of people are just saying it's media speculation, and I think Durban Kulshe comes in and actually says, who here has seen him playing in the last 2 or 3 years? It is true. He's been playing in Russia. Kaiser, again, I'm picking on him today. He's a 10 million rated player regardless of his name. It's a no-brainer. And Brian Murphy, I would take Jordan on a free, though.
That's a huge point as well, isn't it? I think.
Aye, he is a free. I didn't see, and I think his agent's doing his job. And saying, by the way, we've contacted all these clubs. He's went to a well-known face in Scottish football and says Celtic are interested. So his agent can then go to the Sierra A clubs and go like that. Celtic are interested, by the way. Oh, his dad was a hero there. Oh, it's a strong pull, blah, blah, yada, yada. You know how it's going to go. At the moment, I just think it's agent talk and media speak, but I would love a Larsson in the Celtic jersey. I just don't think it's going to happen. I really
We're
don't.
linked all the time as well, aren't we? My God, we've been linked since the minute he turned professional. And, I can't lie. I've not seen him week in, week out, but I will be honest, for not scouting reasons, but certainly for an eye of interest, that I've watched a fair few highlights and do I like his style of play. I do. And that's why I do think he would be something different to Giakoumakis and Kyogo, but it's never going to die down until he signs and
he signs for somebody. I know
exactly, until there's a scarf above the head of some club. Will never die down, and when that deal runs out, there will be more speculation and there'll be more links. They're forever going to be links from the minute he turned professional to the minute he retires. It's just one of these things.
At least we'll only be getting linked with Stephen Fletcher this summer because he's went to Dundee United. He's went to Dundee United. So we'll only have a whole other conversation about the merits of Stephen Fletcher like we did last season in the close season. A couple other things that have happened. We've been linked with Dylan Reid for St Mirren, who's seemingly talking to Ange Postecoglou. Today, 17-year-old, he has made a couple of appearances for St Mirren, I think. Postecoglou's been quite honest. He says he would go into the B team. I must admit, I do not know much about the guy. Amy, what's your thoughts about that?
I'm excited From a Celtic perspective, Scottish youth as well, captained Scottish under-16s, if I'm right. I definitely should know that. But then my head totally turns when, you know, they're bringing him in for the B team. He is only 17, so I get that, but you know, I want players. The B team is the academy players. I don't want players being bought into the academy and being bought. It's just not what the B team are for in the Lowland League. And I just get, obviously, as everyone knows, I get the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But it would be, I do think it would actually be an exciting signing if I just purely think from a Celtic perspective, and, you know, if it was a long-term deal, because I do like him, but would you, as a player, you know, if you're kind of on the, and he is very much on the fringes of a starting place in the St Mirren side, in a Scottish Premiership side at 17, why would you do that then? Why would you make that move to Celtic right now just to be in the B team? Personally, I don't know what he himself is benefiting out of that. You know, he's already in the Scottish youth setup as well, so it's not that he needs to try and get any international recognition. And as you know, as I've battered on about time and time again, if you look at like the Scottish under-21 recently, when they played Denmark, the B team players from Rangers, they weren't even played, you know, and these are guys like Alex Lowry, who is very well regarded, and then has even made that transition to the Rangers, the first team. So, but that's not where Scott Gemmell's looking at. He's looking at players who are playing first team football for a first team club. So really, what is he gaining out of that? He's just getting that first team experience, he's getting that more chance of international recognition, certainly going by what is the case right now. And yeah, you're working with players, with a manager, and training as a first team player. I think that is certainly, if it was me, that's what I would want to be doing. And you know, you're playing in that league, and it's certainly one then to monitor. And from then jumping back to a Celtic perspective, there he is. You know, you can easily watch him. He's only down at Paisley, playing against the teams that you'd be playing against anyway. I think you monitor him certainly for the next few years, and then yeah, if he's still kicking around, then make that move. But yeah, if you're in a first team, I don't think you make that move into a B team.
Tony McCann agrees with Amy. He says better to buy him and loan him back to St Mirren. For me, that would be the better option as well, rather than him going into the B team if we do rate him that highly. It'll be interesting to see if Postecoglou can sweet talk him to actually come to Celtic. It will be. But I'm like you, I'm having a look at it. You're 17, you're playing first team football. Celtic over the last have, apart from the obvious ones that are in the first team, don't have a great record of bringing players through.
No.
So why would you actually want to make that move just now, unless Ange Postecoglou can absolutely sweet talk you and say you'll be in the first team in X amount if you do this and that. Seemingly Aaron Moyes in Glasgow as well, and he's been linked to Celtic and Newcastle as well. Again, it could just be 1 and 2 and 2 getting 5 here. He's worked with Postecoglou before. He hasn't played club competitive football since January because of the COVID restrictions in China. Do you think there's any go on this? He's the type of player that we actually need.
He is another one that's been linked a fair few times, hasn't he? It's quite heavy last season as well, wasn't it? He's got links to Glasgow, so there's not really too much need to read into it. Just the fact that often being in Glasgow, I am not too sure how much that is actually going to come around. I really do think it's just one of these that, yeah, links to Glasgow, links to Ange Postecoglou, so that is that has to be that Celtic are after him. I think he is a decent player. I do like him. I liked him when he was down at Brighton. At the stage of his career, I'm really not all too sure on it. I think it'll be one that we'll know either way pretty soon. I really do.
Aye. I think so. I don't think he fits in with the MO of the players that were being linked with in that position, because the players that were being linked with in that position all seem to be 21, 22, 20. They all seem to be on an upward trajectory. He would come with a hefty salary, and we've already got a 31-year-old with a hefty salary sitting in a defensive midfield position where everybody doesn't know what we want to do with him. So, as I say, I'm a bit like you, Amy. I can't really see it, but we'll trust in Ange Postecoglou as well. Everybody, that's the hour up. I want to thank everybody for getting for your comments, for your questions, for your kind comments about how I'm looking today. Yes, I am actually just going to leave here and dip my eyes in a bucket of water just to try and calm them down. Amy, it's always a pleasure to actually be on the Monday Club with you. Everybody, like, subscribe, and just get involved. And I'll see you back tomorrow after the pre-season game with Bannock Ostrava. Thanks very much. See you all later.